Welcome to the California-Nevada chat for August 30th. I hope everyone's doing well and looking forward to a great and fun, safe Labor Day weekend coming up. My name is Nikki Gatch, and I serve as the Executive Director of the Southern California PGA section. On behalf of our president, Eric Lohman, as well as our colleagues from the Northern California PGA section, we welcome you to today's chat. I'd also like to welcome new Executive Director Caitlin Doyle, who you will hear from here in a few minutes, Assistant Executive Director Michael Merritt, and of course, President Eric Lippert. Once again, we've got some great guests lined up for you. As I mentioned, you will be introduced, or in some cases reintroduced, to Caitlin Doyle, who is now serving as the new Executive Director of the Northern California PGA section. I think she's 2 weeks into the job. So we look forward to hearing from Caitlin and learning about her journey and what she has planned ahead for the section. And then joining us for the second half of the hour, as always, for our legislative update is Public Affairs Consultant for the Southern California Golf Association, as well as the California Alliance for Golf, Mr. Craig Kessler. Before we begin, do we have Mr. Lippert on with us yet? I can't see. Nope. Okay, he's late, 2-shot penalty. With that, we're going to jump right into speaking with Caitlin. So Caitlin, welcome. First of all, huge congratulations to you. This is super exciting. I've, been in your shoes about 18 months ago, and I know you have just such a passion and deep history and experience with the Northern California PGA, and then most recently with the PGA of America, where you served as career consultant for the Northern California section. So would love to just let you kick it off and tell us about your background in golf, how you got started in golf, and then how you got started in golf as a career. So I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you, Nikki, for the great idea to include me today. Thank you so much for offering that generous offer for today. I appreciate that, and obviously, this is exciting being back here at the NorCal PGA office. So I guess I'll start with it's a loaded question, so I'll start with kind of the beginning, right? So my dad actually introduced me into the game of golf. I was late to the game, actually. I started playing golf when I was in high school, so I know it's typically you hear about it, starting pretty young, but I actually played all sports. I played volleyball, soccer growing up, and never really had an interest in golf until high school. Played volleyball in the fall, and I was actually kind of looking for a spring sport in the spring. And my dad had been a college golfer, a really good player. I played actually at LMU down south where you guys are at. And we were members at a club growing up as well. And so I remember going out to the range as a freshman in high school, and my dad giving me some clubs and saying, let's go out and see if you can hit it. And I remember I hit the first shot, and it was nice and high in the air. And my dad said, "Oh my gosh, you're a natural. Let's do this golf thing." And so, originally it started out with being, my time with my dad was the most important thing to me, and the time that we were able to spend on the golf course. And that's really where it started. And then I realized I enjoyed playing the game, and it was a way for me to have community of a golf team in high school, and be able to just kind of better myself as a person, better myself as an athlete. And from there, playing in high school golf, I tried out for the high school golf team my freshman year, made the team, and quickly realized this was something I really, really enjoyed. Around junior year, probably in high school, I learned about the PGA program, so the PGA Golf Management Program. So looking at colleges, I grew up in Oregon. So I'm from Corvallis, Oregon, where I grew up. And was just looking at colleges, and I know I came across Penn State's program, obviously, as one of the 20 schools across the nation that has the PGA program. My dad is from Pittsburgh, so he grew up in the Pennsylvania area, and he's always wanted one of his kids to go to school there. And so it just kind of worked out where they had the golf program, as well as had that tie back to Pennsylvania, where we have some family. So decided to go to Penn State for their golf management program and pursue obviously my degree at Penn State in hospitality management, but also get my PGA Class A through the program there. And went back to school there, went through all the levels of the internship program. I remember my first internship was out at in DC area, out at Woodmont Country Club near DC. And then I went to Long Island and experienced North Shore Country Club out in Long Island. Well, actually went on my third internship. I went out to Pebble Beach here for the long one out here in California. And that's really when I fell in love with Northern California. Obviously, growing up in Oregon, I knew about the West Coast. I knew about the amazing golf courses here in Northern California, but my time spent at Pebble Beach and Spyglass on that internship really was a game changer for me. Learned a lot about customer service and excellent service levels, and I just really enjoyed the resort atmosphere at Pebble. Um, and then obviously leaving that internship, I kind of had this idea in my head of I want to get back to Northern California at some point. I'm not quite sure how, but I want to get back at some point, and I want to make an impact when I come back. And so it's pretty special too. You know, RJ Harper at the time, who's in our Hall of Fame now and is no longer with us, but you know, many on this call know RJ Harper. He's a huge legend in the game and a huge role model for so many. I got to know him at my time at Pebble Beach, and I remember staying close with him and telling him, "Hey, I want to be back here. I want to come back here, and I don't know how, but I want to be back." And he said, you will, you'll be back here. You're determined." And so it's pretty cool, and as a full circle moment, obviously, you know, getting this job, just being so special to me, this area, and what it means to me and the people I've met. But yeah, my last internship, kind of wrapping that up, went to school, went to a PGA headquarters when it was currently in Florida, and wrapped that up at the headquarters there in Florida. And then realized really after those internships that I really enjoyed the admin side of the industry. I think I loved serving members at a club, but something was different for me when I worked at headquarters and I was serving PGA members and I was serving my peers. And that's, I think, where the love of the admin side of this came for me, and it kind of realized I wanted to get back to a section office or maybe PGA national. Um, so you know, finishing up school, went out to Oregon and was a golf professional up there, worked at a couple clubs up in Oregon. And but then the opportunity for coming back to Northern California came across the job board, and I saw the executive assistant and communications specialist role for the Northern California PGA, and that was in 2019. So I actually applied for that, and you know, obviously not knowing what it was going to lead to, but Len obviously was the one that hired me at the time, was he was the executive director in 2019. And um, came down to Northern California, and you know, started at the office there as an executive assistant communications. I rolled into player development a little bit, and then ultimately was the assistant executive director before I, you know, transitioned, like you said, to the PGA of America for a career consultant job. um, but yeah, it's just really been an incredible journey. And uh, you look back and you're just like, how did I get here? You know, this is like only my dreams. I remember sitting on the beach in Carmel when I was leaving my internship in 2014 from Pebble Beach and saying like, how am I going to get back here? And now we're, you know, 10 years later, and here I am. And it's just, it's, yeah, truly grateful, truly honored. You know, I know that this position is something that is, it's just it's a life dream. It's a dream come true. And it's something that I'm hoping that I can make all of our members proud, and make them, and listen to them, right? This is I'm here in this role, and I've been granted this role, and I hope to be able to serve them to the best of my ability. So hopefully that's a good start.
That's awesome. Thanks, Caitlin. I appreciate that. I knew most of that, but I think I picked up a couple other things. And you know, certainly we have a lot in common, but you know, our fathers bringing us to this game is probably one of the most important. So thank you for sharing that. You know, you mentioned some names, obviously, and as we all know, what's so important in this industry is the mentorship that we have, you know, with our peers, with younger professionals coming into the industry. You know, I've only worked in the golf industry, so I don't have another industry to compare to, but I just feel it is so special in our industry that we truly want each other to succeed, because if we all succeed, then the game and the industry succeed. So can you dive in a little bit about maybe some of the mentors that you've had in your career and that help get you to this point?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's always such a good question, and there's so many people, right, that you can never really shout them all out, because there's so many professionals that have helped me along the way and guided me along the way, and that's, you know, obviously what I hope to do in return. But I think first and foremost, the biggest impact on my golf life and career has been my dad. I mean, he's the biggest mentor I have. not only in life, but definitely in my career. Being one of four kids, I'm the third kid like my dad, and my dad is also the third kid, and we just have that special bond. We have that bond with golf. Um, my dad has a unique way of always making sure that he knows that I know that I'm loved. I know that I'm cared for. He provides me so much insight, a venting sounding board, and he's really just been there throughout my entire career, and he's number one for sure in my life. And then on top of that, I would say just my first real big mentor in the golf business would be Brian Tunstall. And Brian Tunstall is the director of golf at Columbia Edgewater Country Club up in Portland, Oregon. And that was really one of my first assistant golf professional and retail manager type jobs that I had once I left Penn State and started working full time in the industry. And Brian is really involved at the Pacific Northwest section. He's been a section president. But what I learned from Brian is about just he's a consummate professional. It's just everything he stands for, the image, how he talks to members, how he treats members fairly. Always doing what's right for the membership and always going above and beyond. And his attention to detail was extreme. I mean, it was on a next level. And I think that's something I learned from Brian for sure along the path of my career. And then lately, Len Dumas 100% has been a huge mentor of mine, obviously working for him for the last few years at the office, and then being a partner of the section over the last couple years as the career consultant. Len and I have stayed close and had a lot of conversations about work, about life, and he's someone that for sure has guided me into this role. I mean, when I have those doubts of like, can I do this, Len? And he's always like, I'm here to support you, and you have this, you can do this. And having people like that believe in you and see that potential in you is really special. And then another really big one for me as well lately has been Ken Farrell. So Ken Farrell, who a lot of you on this call probably know from Southern California, was the career consultant in SoCal for a long time. In a Hall of Famer, obviously moved up to Northern California to help assist me as the career consultant when I first got started. And now he's the PGA executive search recruiter, but still here in NorCal, and we stay pretty close. But he's been a huge role model of mine, a huge mentor of mine. And again, always picking out things I can do better, things I can work on, encouraging me along the way, and guiding me. And both of those have been extremely instrumental in the process of getting me to this point. Just being able to prepare for interviews and my resume, and just talking about everything that I'm going to encounter over this journey. And they've always been right there to help with that. But yeah, those are just a few of them. Obviously, there's so many on the call. I mean, Nikki, I think of you as one. Obviously, Tom Addis and Edwin Nicky. There's so many that have helped me with my life and my career, and yeah, I'm very grateful for them.
Yeah, well, thank you for that. It's been fun to get to know you over the years and see your career progress, and I'm certainly excited to be working alongside you. No secret, that our two sections have a great working relationship and partnership. Certainly, a big part of District 11 with our friends in the Aloha section. So look forward to continuing that. We just had our District 11 meeting about a month ago that you all hosted, and you and Michael and the group did a wonderful job. And we had some great conversations, some great meetings, and planning, and always with the focus of, what's best for the member in mind. So look forward to the continued collaboration that we have. I mean, this platform, this California Nevada chat is a prime example of how we collaborate and bring our members together. Obviously all the efforts we do with D11, and we of course have our team matches, and look forward to doing more down the road, whatever that might be. If it's competition, if it's education, whatever that might be, foundation efforts. Along the lines of mentors, it's been a big topic, for the PGA and especially for our sections. What is the Northern California section doing as far as mentoring young and new members and associates, and what are your goals for that program?
Yeah, absolutely. Really good question. It's definitely, it's a topic that I'm really passionate about because it's what I was doing, first and foremost with the career services, bringing a lot of new members into this industry and into this game. And so, I mean, just to start, last year in Northern California alone, we had 125 new associates, which is
Mhm.
amazing growth. We haven't seen those numbers here in Northern California for a long time. I know obviously we're up now. The PGA number keeps growing higher and higher, and now we're, I think, nearly 31,000 um, associates members. And so, we have a real great opportunity to be able to provide them support and help them along their journey. And like I said, I mean, those are what people have done for me. I hope that we can do for others as well. And so, our education committee actually this year, we have launched a new Northern California PGA mentoring program, which I'm really excited about. We're actually about to launch it come next month. So a lot of hard work from our education committee. Matt Jordan is one of the chairs, as well as Josh Osler. And really what it is we sent a survey out to all the PGA members here in Northern California, as well as associates, kind of getting the information of what do they need. Do they need a mentor? Do they need someone that can help guide them through the program? And then and also too, who wants to step up and help guide someone through the program? I know a lot of it's changed from when from prior years. Now we're in 3.1. It seems like it's constantly evolving. The 3.1 program does seem to be helping a lot of individuals out with the whole quiz-based format, and we're seeing a lot of return through the levels a lot faster. So we're hoping that this program is going to be really a great help. We're pairing up mentors with mentees in the section, and really their goal is to speak with them, help them with the program, and guide them with whatever they need. And sometimes at facilities they have a professional that they're working for, but it also is nice to be able to connect with the professional that's not currently at their club, to be able to pick their brain and see different sides of the industry. Maybe they work at a resort and they want to talk to someone about a private club and what that's like working there. So I think it's going to be a really an amazing program. Yeah, we're excited to see it launch, and everything that the education committee is doing here in NorCal has been top notch. We now have a professional development webinar it's monthly. So we're doing a monthly webinar where we're bringing speakers on every month, and to all topics. And I'm pretty excited about one of the topics coming up about just work-life balance and how to manage work on top of your personal life. We're also getting people like financial planners to come help and talk to our young associates about how to save for retirement, things like that are not necessarily golf related, but they're life related skills that can really help our associates out. And so, yeah, another thing I'd love to do, and we're working on this, is potentially in an orientation for all of our associates coming in, to make sure that they know that they feel like they belong here in the Northern California. I think sometimes we're all so busy working hours at our club, and you get so siloed sometimes at your club, but if you feel like you belong to something, it really helps you have that community sense, and giving our associates an opportunity to be able to network with other associates, to be able to meet our board of directors, to feel like they're tuned in with our section staff, where they can call myself or Michael or our staff and know us on a personal level. I think that sense of community really helps drive the retention, and I'm hoping that that's what we'll see with our associates.
Yeah, that's great. I know we've seen great success with our mentor program. I'm sure you will the same way. It was started a couple years ago from our education chair, Tom Sun, and he started at the chapter level down in San Diego, and was great. And now we do the same program in the other four chapters, and we've really seen some positive things come out of that. I mean, not only the mentoring and the networking, but now we're seeing some of our younger professionals want to get more involved in the section. So want to join a committee, want to possibly join their chapter board, participate more in tournaments or educational opportunities. So it's great overall. So I know you guys will do a wonderful job, and however we can help or collaborate on that, we're certainly open to it. How do you think, obviously you spent some time at the section, our path, the part of our paths there are very similar, right? You spent some time at the section, you left to go work for the PGA of America, and now you're back with the section. What do you think? What do you think you learned, or what can you now bring back to the section when you left, went to the association, and now back to the section?
Yeah, actually, that sidestep for me was critical, and I think I
Yeah.
kinda in the process, yeah, of course, it was hard to leave the section, right? I mean, I loved working for the Northern California PGA, but it was something that I felt like I had to do to enhance my skills just even more, so I could potentially go back to the section at a higher level. But I think, I mean, first and foremost, the career consultant role is a member-facing role. So I think what I'm able to bring back is the relationships with the section members is huge, right? When you're in a leadership position like you and I, Nikki, obviously we're pulled in so many different ways, and you have business development, you have governance board. I mean, there's so much going on, but at the end of the day, we're serving our members, and that's the most important thing. I mean, they're part of the Northern California PGA because of the program when we put on the tournaments we put on, they're tied to something. And so I think with the NorCal career consultant role, all I was doing every day was member facing, right? Is helping employers post jobs, helping our members find jobs, making sure that they're a good fit for jobs, helping them with their compensation and their quality of life. Getting those phone calls from members that says, that you helped me with a compensation boost, and this is huge for me and my family. I mean, that's life changing. What else do you want? What else can you do to really have an impact, right? And also just being a sounding board for our members. I mean, I think all my trips throughout our 6 chapters of the last couple years, getting in front of our members, sitting in their offices and just listening to them, right? Sometimes I'd
Mhm.
have an appointment, sometimes I wouldn't. And just sitting there and listening to them, like, what are your issues? What are your challenges? Like, talk to me. Let me know what's on your mind. And having that resource for PGA members is incredible. And if you haven't reached out to your career consultant yet, I severely hope that you do, because it's such an important role in being able to help be kind of a sounding board and a venting board for so many of our pros that don't really have anywhere else to go. So I think just being able to really have that heart for the member, I've always had that, but it really, really shined through during the last couple of years, because that's all I was doing was just serving our members on a daily basis. And that's going to certainly help me in my new role, just making sure that I always, when you get pulled a ton of different ways, you're always remembering your why. And at the end of the day, if I help one of our members out or one of our veterans out every day, I think I'm doing the job. And it is hard sometimes because you do get pulled, but you want to make sure that that's your why. And then also a huge part of that sidestep to being able to come back was the relationships with the PGA of America staff. I mean, that's a huge part too, because you and I interact every day with section payroll, accounting, business development, all the different departments at PGA headquarters, and knowing who the key players are at HQ now really helps our section out. And they now know, they know me, they know our staff, and I know who to contact, which kind of just helps speed up the process when we're working with our members on things like purse payouts or a membership question. And hey, I let me call Tom Brawley with membership, and so those are kind of the key things I think from really that sidestep to the PGA. But yeah, it was really beneficial to where I'm at today. I think a lot of it too is just the confidence, right? It's just is you're such that role, you have so much autonomy in the role as career consultant to really be able to build your own schedule and be at the events that you think are important. And so I learned a lot about myself through the process, and I also gained, I think, a lot of confidence and skills in myself to really be able to help me now. So
Yeah, I agree. I felt the same way, when I made the move to the association, certainly wasn't looking to leave, I was completely happy, but it was an opportunity that, I couldn't pass up. And when I look back, it probably was a really defining moment in my career, and really just solidified what I thought I wanted. And so it's great. So I know you bring a lot of insight and experience and networking back to the Northern Cal PGA. So let's dive into some fun stuff. But you've done a lot in your short career. You still have a long ways to go, and some. I know you're gonna continue to have great accomplishments. What is something that sticks out to you as maybe the great best, biggest accomplishment? Both in your professional life, and let's talk about your personal life too.
yeah, absolutely. I think first and foremost for my personal life, one of my greatest accomplishments was graduating from Penn State. That was a big deal for me, right? I'm young for my grade too, as well, and I graduated high school at 17, graduated college at 21. I'm from Oregon, like I referenced, and so as a 17-year-old, who doesn't have any connections on the East Coast, going 3,000 miles away from home to go to Penn State. That was a big jump. That was a huge leap and a huge risk. I did not know anyone. And so, that really helped me kind of push myself out of my comfort zone, learn how to adapt, also learn how to get along with different types of people, different walks of life. I mean,
Mhm.
coming from the West Coast, people on the East Coast were like, "You're from the West Coast? Like, what in the world?" Like, they weren't used to that. And so I think just, accomplishing that and like getting through 4 years of college and tackling that, moving away from home was super hard, but I needed to do it to be able to get that skill of being able to adapt. Our cohort for our PGA program had 80 kids when we started, and I think we only had about 35 when we graduated, but we had 4 women, and I was really proud of that. So, and all 4 of us women are still in the industry and stay in touch today, and they're some of my best friends, and so I'm really proud of that accomplishment of that tackling that journey. And then another one I would say probably is the PGA Reach New York City Marathon. So in 2022, so 2 years ago, I applied to be on the PGA Reach running team to run the New York City Marathon with the PGA team. So we're all tasked to raise $3,000 for PGA Reach. And then as a team, obviously, we have fundraising goals. Our new District 11 director, Scott Ashworth, is one of the captains of that running team. And so I had always wanted to run a marathon. It was a lifelong goal. I had run about 10 marathons, 10 half marathons before. And I always said, one day I'm going to do the full. I just don't know when I can manage it around work. And I kind of stopped making excuses and said, you're never going to not have work. Figure it out. And so I applied for the team. Our team raised $90,000 for PGA Reach in 2022, which was the highest year so far to date. And all of us just accomplishing that task of running the marathon was pretty special. I mean, running through 5 boroughs of New York City and finishing miles 24 through 26 in Central Park when the lights are it's getting dark at night. And I mean, I remember at mile 23, I started crying. So I was pretty much blurry eyed for the last 3 miles. I mean, I couldn't see much. I was just crying because I was so proud of myself. But yeah, just also, tackling that when you're working full time. I mean, that's a huge accomplishment. I had to I remember on my calendar, right? Like I'd schedule calls for work and then I'd schedule my run. And that was how it worked for me. I don't know how else I could have done it because you have to stay
Mhm.
on track. And um, yeah, that was just a major life accomplishment that I'm really proud of. And I think just with work, it's so hard to choose. Professionally, I obviously I'm proud of what I've done. I think in Northern California, I think that's number one. I mean, I can't pinpoint one thing, but I think serving our members, I think to a high level is what I'm most proud of. I feel like getting to know our members and getting to know what makes them tick and their whys and their families. You learn about them over the years, and oh my gosh, you just got engaged, you just had a baby. Stuff like that. It really brings me joy. It excites me. I really thrive through our members. And I'm just proud of that and proud of what we've accomplished. And obviously in this role, I'm not as member facing out in the field. Obviously, everything I do is member facing at the office, but just looking forward to continuing to have more of those moments that make me happy and moments that make me proud. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. That's a big deal to prepare and finish a marathon, and then to do it to raise money for something really important and special is makes it all that much more special. So thank you for what you did, and congrats. So we'll jump into to some fun golf stuff. The age old question: dream foursome.
that's a good one. There's so many potential ways I can go with this, but I think because I've already referenced my dad a few times today, I would have to say number one, my dad would be in that foursome, and I'd say my brother. So I have three siblings, so one brother and two sisters. Both my sisters do not play golf. My brother plays golf. So I'd have to have my brother in there. We have a lot of duels in high school on the golf course together and a lot of back and forth. And he's someone I look up to greatly. And so I'd have my brother in there as well, Andrew. And then I'd say Jack Nicklaus. And the reason I say Jack probably over Tiger is just because Jack is my dad's favorite golfer, and he would have loved to play around he would love to play around with Jack. So I think that would be a really fun foursome just with all those guys. And some of my favorite people for sure.
Absolutely. Okay, so then where are you going to play? Favorite course?
It's so hard because I mean I'm so blessed here in Northern California. We're all blessed in NorCal. I mean, we have some of the best golf courses in the world. I mean, um, I would one of my favorite golf courses has to be Spyglass Hill. Like interning, like I said, at Pebble Beach and Spyglass back in 2013. I actually had my 21st birthday on Spyglass when I was an intern. And again, to reference RJ saw I was behind the shop there, and he was like, "You're coming out to play for your 21st birthday. We're gonna go out and play golf." And so I got to play my 21st birthday round with RJ Harper on Spyglass, and that golf course has just always been extremely special to me because of those memories. And I love the golf course. I think it's just such an amazing course. Um, One of my other favorites here in Northern California has got to be San Francisco Golf Club. I think that's such an amazing golf course. Really, really fun golf course. So I'd say probably one of those two. But anything in Northern California, you honestly cannot go wrong. That's for sure.
Well, that's for sure. I have not had the pleasure to play Spyglass yet, but we will knock that off the list hopefully soon. Okay, so you're at Spyglass. You're playing with Dad and Bro and Mr. Nicholas. And what's the favorite club in the bag?
I like how you sequenced this. This is good. Building the story.
The journalism degree comes in handy every now and then.
Yeah. That's perfect. I would say probably my putter. I've always, growing up playing golf, in high school golf, my nickname always through high school golf was always like the up and down queen. That was what everyone called me because, I've always been accurate off the tee. Usually hit the ball fairly straight. I've never been long off the tee. I never have, and that's never been my strength. But I've always been very good around the greens, and that's actually how my dad started having me play golf. Is we didn't even touch a long club or touch a driver until months after I was hitting chips with wiffle balls over our coffee table and out on the lawn in the backyard. So I really got the hang of like the chipping and putting motion before I really even excelled to that longer club. Um, but I've always enjoyed putting. I think it's something that's I'm good at. I think it's something that I enjoy. I enjoy reading greens and kind of being strategic with that. I feel like I have a pretty good handle on the green speed most places. I like fast greens, and so for me, putting has always been something I've been reliant on as well because, like I said, typically my long game hasn't been there, so I'm always having to either get up and down, or if I get on the green, try to make sure that I two putt, and so that's kind of been the strength of my game for a long time. So
Okay.
I'd say
And I've
probably.
witnessed it personally, so I do know this.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to end since we're entering football season. Everybody's excited. How's Penn State going to be this year?
They're gonna be
And
good.
Who's your favorite NFL team?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, Pittsburgh Steelers has always been my NFL team. So like I said, growing up with my dad always being a Pittsburgh fan, I grew up being raised as a Penguins fan, a Pirates fan, a Steelers fan. And then actually when I moved in, when I was going to Penn State, we went to Pittsburgh before I went to Penn State to move in, and we went to a Pirates game, and it was such a cool experience just because it's so beautiful overlooking the Pittsburgh skyline, and it kind of reminds me of Oracle Park there. So that was pretty special. But I've always enjoyed the Steelers. I've always rooted for the Steelers, and I think it's partly because my dad's ingrained that in me. But obviously now being in NorCal for the last 6 years almost, I've obviously gone to a lot of the I've gone to one or two of the Giants, not Giants games, the Niners games, and I'm starting to kind of pick up some of the players on the Niners that I'm enjoying too. I like a lot of their team, and I enjoy players. I really enjoy learning about the players and their lives and kind of their roles on the team. Someone like Brock Purdy, who's such a leader, and what he's done for the Niners. Someone like Kittle. I just recently watched that receiver show on Netflix, and my admiration for him went up, tenfold just because he's so funny. And
Yeah.
I like kind of picking out players. Devonte Adams has always been one that I really enjoy watching. He's connected to some of my family friends as well, and so I've heard a lot about him on a personal level, and I just enjoy watching certain players do their job so well. It's fun to watch excellence, and so yeah,
Yeah.
I think it'll be fun to watch the season. Hopefully Penn State does well. You never know. And but hopefully the Steelers do well as well. So we'll see. But fall is the best time of year. You can't have anything better than the fall, which is the football and the weather changing, and it's gonna be fun. So I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
absolutely. Well, awesome. Thanks for your time, Caitlin. I know everybody enjoyed hearing from you and getting to know you a little bit better. And those that have known you, maybe they picked up a few things that they didn't know. And again, just certainly excited to be working alongside you and leading California with the PGA. So look forward to collaborating on more things, and always here for you to bounce ideas off of, and likewise. So thanks for sharing your journey and introducing yourself. And with that, for the last time we have, we're going to turn it over to Mr. Craig Kessler for any legislative updates that he has to share with the group. Craig?
Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, Caitlin.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, Caitlin. That was a very engaging and riveting interview. And as I was listening to all that youth, all that energy, all that athletic talent with running marathons, and a great golfer and a great putter too. Keep in mind, I actually played golf yesterday, and last 4 holes, I hit 4 fairways, I hit 4 greens, and was only 3 over par. So, Caitlin, maybe we play in a scramble and you can do the putting for me and so forth. But we did have one thing in common. I too, it was a long time ago though, graduated high school at 17 and college at 21. The difference between us is that I can barely remember either age, and it sounds to me like you can. Well, anyway, welcome. I know you've been part of the California family for a long time, but welcome to these chats and welcome to that engagement. So with that, although the Steelers, it's better than some people's taste in teams, but that's okay. Well, that's a discussion for another time. So in terms of a legislative update, I think that's why you invited me on the show, not to talk about my bad putting. This is a significant day. We have one more day. Really, this is almost the last day because tomorrow's Saturday, but one more day in the legislative calendar for 2024. And this is the end of a 2-year session. We're still in the 19th century in many ways in California. So we have a 2-year session. So there is a mad dash going on right now in Sacramento to see which of those thousands of bills that got filed earlier in the year and some last year are going to make it out of both houses of the legislature and onto the governor's desk for his signature or his veto. And I'll get to the specifics in a moment, but explain also why some of us often caution against getting too panicked at some of the bills that inevitably, when we get to January and February of next year, you'll see some things that scare the you-know-what out of you. And we always exercise a little bit of caution. So I know it's been a long time, 17, 21, whatever it is, since we had that little lesson some of us paid attention to and some didn't, how a bill becomes a law. But keep in mind that in order to actually get to the governor's desk, and the governor vetoes a substantial number of bills, bill has to have a number entitled by a date, and usually in mid-February. It has to sit, that's in its house of origin. It has to sit for 30 days, after which it's assigned to at least one, sometimes multiple committees. It must then make it out of that committee or those committees in its house of origin by the end of April, and through the Appropriations Committee as well, which is often called the Great Culling. Anything with a financial impact of more than 50,000, which is virtually everything except Motherhood Week or something, is goes to appropriations, and that's the place where a lot of either bad bills die or those that are so controversial that lawmakers are afraid to vote no. But during the appropriations process, where there's really no debate, no one understands, a lot of these bills sort of disappear. Now, if it makes it all through that, it goes to the other house, the Assembly to the Senate, Senate to the Assembly, goes through the identical process in the other house with all the possible amendments. Governors and departments of the state often weigh in, and obviously lobbying interests weigh in, one of which is us, although we're one of the smaller ones. And then then those bills have to be reconciled. Amendments are taken in one house, they have to be concurred in the other house. And we get to this point, this day in the year, in which there's that mad dash to go through 3 readings on the floor to get it out and go to the governor's office. And there's still persons and interests who don't like that bill, who are beginning to already hammer the governor about perhaps issuing vetoes. So keep in mind, it's very, very difficult for anything to become a law. Keep that in mind, that when some of those posturing bills that, again, scare the you-know-what out of us get filed, don't always panic, but, and simply say that at this point, 2024 was another really good year for the golf community in California. So many of you who track these things were aware that the one sort of evil bill that was filed this year was one that would have prohibited the use of any non-organic fertilizer or pesticide on a golf resort in California's coastal zone. Now, Caitlin talked very kindly about her years at Pebble Beach. That would be those would be golf courses in the coast. Those would be golf resorts in the coastal zone. La Costa, which now hosts permanently the NCAA championships, Aviera, Monarch Beach. There are a number of them in the state. I believe Torrey Pines would have qualified because of its direct ties and relationships to the two hotels on site, but that remained to be seen. And of course, the real danger of that, even though that's only about at most 9 or 10, although very significant golf courses in California, it would have been a very slippery slope. What does a hotel room have to do with putting fertilizers on a golf course in a coastal zone? So our friends in the environmental movement would have begun a campaign to say, well, if we do it there, why not extend it to all golf courses in California's coastal zone? And that's an awful lot of golf courses. And so almost virtually everyone on this call works in the industry. So an industry that would be that hollowed out would not be a friendly place to work in this particular state. And it wouldn't be a very great place for those of us who play golf and like to three-putt 3 of the last 4 greens and still come back for more punishment. It wouldn't be good for us as well. Good news to report is that California Alliance for Golf opposed that bill unless those things were amended out of it. And I recently penned an article, a story for SCGA's hard copy magazine 4, in which sort of passing the torch to my successor, Kevin Fitzgerald, who many of you know, and if you don't, you'll get to know him. He's a remarkably talented young man. That pointing out that 10 years ago in Sacramento, nobody cared what golf thought about anything. But given the success we've had, given the way we've conducted ourselves in Sacramento, on many things. Many persons on this call are aware of what the work we did with independent contractors. You may be less aware of the work we did with neonicotinoids, other pesticide issues, glyphosate, getting golf specifically exempted in bills that prohibit the use of potable water on non-functional turf, making sure that golf is categorized in state legislation, which leads all the local ordinances that follow, as functional turf that were for which you could use potable water. The 2 rounds of what we called the Public Golf Endangerment Acts, which would have created powerful, basically free money for people to develop municipal golf courses into affordable housing complexes. And then, of course, with this bill, we were in essence contacted by the author and the sponsor of the bill to, in essence, so give us the amendments that will get you off this, get to withdraw your opposition. And they took those amendments. We withdrew our opposition. So if that bill comes back in a future session, and that's what happens in Sacramento, it's highly unlikely that it would come back with those particular provisions so that we can exhale. In another way, I know I got contacted by a number of GMs and golf professionals when late May, our Attorney General decided that something we thought that had been resolved last year when the state of California adopted a junk fees law, as it's affectionately called, meaning that when you advertise something, you have to list all of the fees associated with it except for taxes. And restaurants and banquet functions were to be exempt from that. They were not to be included, according to the author. Our Attorney General decided something different at the end of May. And given the fact that that was to become effective July 1st, a bit of a panic set in. Good news was on no less than June 30th, as so many facilities were ready to go with 2 different sets of menus, the author of the bill was able to do a little bit of a gut and amends, one of those instances in which we favored a gut and amend that made clear that restaurant functions were exempt. So come July 1st, I would say that was a piece of serendipitous luck, perhaps, but nonetheless something good that happened in the session. I know we were very concerned about a bill that would have put us on year-round standard time, which would have cut into twilight golf all across the state. That bill was was amended in the assembly by a friendly chair, someone who's very friendly to golf and to business in this state, that the author got frustrated, withdrew it. He may bring it back next year, and again, so we'll do it. But that was a piece of good news. And then, of course, our support was solicited. Again, another thing, a difference in 10 years ago. No one cared when we opposed anything, and certainly no one sought our support for anything. But in this case, the California Municipal Utilities Association sought our industry's support for a bill. The number is Senate Bill 366, which I'm happy to report went through both floors, is now on its way to the governor's office, which would create, for the first time in the history of California, a target for water supply. Now, I want to repeat that because it turns out we have 81 specific targets and dates for all kinds of things dealing with decarbonizing and defossil fuelizing or whatever our economy, many of which fall on golf facilities. For example, substituting electric power equipment for gas-powered equipment. And oftentimes we're a little bit flummoxed because the equipment doesn't exist, or in some cases it exists at twice the price and half the efficiency. And the state hasn't been all that sympathetic to that particular argument. But when it comes down to water, really the lifeblood of everything that we do in this state, there were no targets. And there is a target now, assuming the governor signs it, and I think it's almost 100% that the governor will sign it, and it asks for the state to, by 2040, come up with 9 million more acre feet per year in terms of supply. Now, there was some concern, and I think there were some amendments taken at the last moment, because the bill was never designed to generate that supply out of the Sacramento Delta, but the environmental interests were concerned, and I would say rightly concerned, to nix all that possibility. So that's in the bill, and we thoroughly supported that. We have no interest in destroying the ecosystem of the Delta to create the supply. Now, that's good news in the sense that if we ever get to the point, as we were very close in Southern California in 2022, had we had a fourth consecutive year like the previous 3 years, we were going to be on water triage. And it isn't going to be agriculture and hospitals and major commerce and residents that get cut off. It'll be things like golf courses and parks and so forth. So that's good news for us. The bad news is that to create supply, 21st century modes of supply are very costly, and to the degree to which that we pay a lot in water rates, we have to anticipate that that's going to add to the cost. But in a certain sense, it's better to have access to something at a higher price than to have no access whatsoever. And of course, and in many cases, as you read oftentimes about the Imperial Irrigation District giving up, 700, giving up substantial acre feet per year in order to restore the integrity of the Colorado Basin. That's largely agriculture, and the farmers are going to get $700 million in money to fallow their fields, which they can do for certain crops. You can't fallow a golf course. Once it dies, and it costs so much to bring it back, it's not going to be brought back. So all those things are extremely important. One bill that we did support in the session, which would have created statewide something which is starting to become routine in Southern California, to create state grants for incentive programs and rebate programs that are not just turf removal, because golf courses, once you remove so much turf, ultimately we're going to play golf on grass. We're not going to play it on California-friendly, drought-tolerant rocks and cacti. But also to do turf conversion, because so much again, laudably as an industry, we've invested so much in supporting the research necessary to create, not just us, but across the country as well, to create more and more drought tolerant Bermuda strains in particular that just take less water. They're more durable, and the new ones that have been developed at University of California at Riverside hold the hope of actually, and I'm supposed to phrase this properly, they don't stay bright green in the winter if you don't overseed them in the desert area, but passively green. And that will save substantial water. And I hope everyone listening to this call recognizes that as an industry, we have to continue to keep playing conservation cards in order to stay up with what is pretty clear now is a warming and drying climate. As the snowpack in the Sierra yields less water, and as the Colorado Basin is pretty much is being aridified, I hope that's a word. I'll find out after the call. And of course, all of the water districts are having to give up some of that allocation in order to protect the integrity of long-term of that. So as we come to those sorts of things. So all in all, a good legislative session, which I think puts us into good position going into 25, 26. I really have to applaud so many, the two organizations on this call have been very supportive of these efforts, and not the only ones in the state that have been supportive. And I think, if I do say so myself, I'm going to tease a little some things which I think are coming in the future. We have found a formula and something that works. And if we can scale that up, it'll work even better. And I think it has to work even better, because part of that story I wrote about in 4 magazine about, 10 years ago, no one cared. 10 years ago, it didn't matter that much, because virtually everything that I was working on was local and regional and almost infrequently at the state. But in the last 5 or 6 years, it seems like more and more things are happening at that Sacramento level. And I don't see that particularly stopping anytime soon. So I think so with that little bit of a negative piece, I mean, at the end, it's so far, so good, and we're doing well. One of the things I fear is that because we've had as much success as we have, that we'll take for granted that we're not just one failure away from a real problem. Because I probably glossed over, had either one of those public golf endangerment acts passed, we would have been in a frantic defensive position trying to prevent the closure of those very facilities. I'm not worried, look, in the public sector, I'm not worried about Harding Park or Torrey Pines or Rancho Park in Los Angeles. Those are not the places in danger. But the places that would be in danger, if you think in terms of Youth on Course, SCG, First Tee, SCGA Junior Golf Foundation, all the work that the sections do with Junior League and so forth, take a close look at those locations where we're trying to grow and diversify this game. They're not at the upscale, for the most part, municipal facilities. They're at the ones that struggle at the margins and are most vulnerable to development, and also very vulnerable. We run up all the time this notion of, why waste this much acreage on golf, which is only enjoyed by 10% of the population, when we could make it available as just simply open green space to 100% of the population? It's a pretty compelling argument. There are a lot of counter arguments, but we need to make them and continue to make them in order to preserve those facilities that we definitely need to grow and sustain the game. Working so many years for the SCGA, which is obviously all of golf, from little traveling clubs that play that play 9-hole 3-par leagues, all the way to U.S. Open sites and very, very expensive and superb private golf clubs. We see it all. So on those occasions, every time I find myself meeting with a board of an upscale private club, or with a finance committee or a greens committee or something, a green committee or something like that, I always ask the question, how did you find yourself here? And almost none of them were to the country club born. Vast majority in their story is either my mom or my dad dropped me off at a local muni where I played for $1 a day on a summer pass, or I took it up in my 20s when I didn't really have any money, and because the local muni was offering, and it was oftentimes a PGA pro offering a series of 6, and I thought, I'm not going to play soccer or baseball or basketball anymore. Maybe I should try this golf thing out. And I fell in love with it and realized you could play the game of a lifetime, and a grandfather and a father and a son and a daughter and all the rest could play multi-generationally. And later in life, I either my professional practice or my business. And so I joined a private club because, just like I used to, buy a used car that barely worked when I was in my 20s. And now that I'm in my 50s, I buy a sports car because I've made it. So that's usually always the story. And to keep replicating that story, that would become extremely important. And to keep those golf courses alive, we have to be able to make that proactive argument as to the social utility of these facilities, why we're not just good for the 10% that play golf, but we're good for the environment, we're good for charity, we're good for communities, we're good for all those things. And I'll finish with one cautionary because it's a particular passion of mine. The one thing we're really not good for is putting almost any other financial or economic use of 150 acres in urban California is a higher and better use, whether it's residentially or commercially, and it will pay more taxes. So I will always rail against spending the precious resources that we have on documenting our economic inefficiency. We should spend those resources on documenting the way in which golf courses enrich every community in which they're located. It doesn't matter whether you play golf or don't play golf. It's heat relief, it's environmental sustainability. We have permits on water discharge. We're permeable surfaces. We're good for charity. Tell any politician that find out where the money is raised for your local PTA, your local chamber of commerce, your local hospitals. It's at a golf course, a municipal golf course. And that puts the whole thing in a different light in those kinds of defenses. So with that, I see we're coming up a few minutes. I like to, every once in a while, I like to come like 3 or 4 minutes before the end, just as I told you so. So I'm going to close with that. I'm going to always thank you for in continuing to invite me back, and thank the professionals and the GMs in this state. I think for the interest and the passion that you show. You have tough jobs. And I've always said, but one of them is you're actually the contact point for more golfers than anyone else. You see a lot more than I do. And the impression that you leave with them is more important than you may not know it, than anyone else in the game. And the fact that you take time out of your busy careers and lives to focus on the big picture issues that affect all of our abilities to continue to thrive is laudable. I appreciate it. But I think it's in your self-interest, and I look forward to continuing to work with you in the future to accomplish these, so that somebody else 10 years from now will be giving us, so that they listen to us even more and more and more in the corridors of power and recognize that what we recognize, it's a great game, and it should grow and thrive in the state of California. So thanks for having me. And I'm actually going to shut up now, Nikki.
Well, thanks, Greg. Great message. Appreciate that. We appreciate your time and your leadership and all that you do on our behalf and on behalf of our game and our industry. We appreciate it. It's important stuff, right? To those that have volunteered and raised their hand to be an advocacy ambassador, we thank you. What we've been able to accomplish in a few months has been great. I know here in Southern California, we had 17 of our professionals raise their hand to be ambassadors. I know as of today, 14 of those 17 have either met with their congressperson or a member of their staff. That's great news, right? It's starting those relationships, creating those relationships, making them aware of who we are and what we do and the great impact that we have in our communities. So more to come on that. Craig, thank you as always. Caitlin, thank you for hopping on. If you have any closing comments, we'd love to hear your first closing comments as executive director.
That is exciting. No, thanks, Craig. That was really good there. I appreciate all the information for our members. And no, really just short today. Just wanted to say thank you for the time. I really appreciate you setting this up, Nikki. And I'm excited to keep doing these moving forward with you now. And I just wanted to wish everyone a happy and safe Labor Day holiday. Be safe, have a great time, hopefully get out and play some golf. But yeah, if I can do anything, as always, please call, text, email. Always happy to hear. And I look forward to continuing to serve all of the members here in Northern California.
Wonderful. Thanks, Caitlin. Thanks, Craig. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I know we had a few people that called in on our phone numbers, so please make sure that you reach out to your respective section. Let us know that you were on so we can make sure that you get your PDR credit. Have a wonderful weekend. Our next chat will be September 27th. So mark your calendar and we will see you in about a month. Have a great weekend. Enjoy golf, enjoy the outdoors, and enjoy college football. Take care, everybody.